Spring 2022 was an exciting time in the world of film photography. Not only did Kodak release Kodak Gold 200 on medium format, but Cinestill also brought a new film stock to the market, Cinestill 400D. I've been a long-time fan of Cinestill and the film stocks that they create. Of their existing film stocks, Cinestill 800D is one of my favourites. Great for low light, great for nighttime. I particularly like it on 35mm for street photography. And then their other colour film stock, Cinestill 400D, is great for like those nostalgic, very cinematic scenes, but at a speed that is more appropriate for daytime use rather than nighttime. However, at 800 ISO and 50 ISO, those are quite extreme ends of the scale. And Cinestill was kind of missing a middle ground in terms of film speed. So after months of waiting to get my hands on this film stock, because you know it's November now and this film stock did come out spring of this year, I finally managed to get my hands on a couple of rolls of Cinestill's 400D. The D stands for dynamic and it is a daylight balanced film. At 400 ISO, it makes it a great film stock to use on location, in daylight, in daytime scenarios, especially at this time of year where we maybe have less light than other times of the year. So that's what I wanted to test this stock on first, going out and shooting on location in the daytime. So I headed to Manchester's Chinatown, renowned for its bright colours and neon lights, with model Cameron to shoot a couple rolls of 120 and see how it fares compared to some of my other favourite colour film stocks, including Cinestill 800D and of course Kodak's Portra 400. So the first thing I noted about Cinestill 400D was the richness and the vibrancy of the colours and the skin tones. It has a kind of like a fullness in the colours. That's the best way I can describe it. Hopefully you can kind of see what I mean by that. But I was definitely really happy and kind of surprised at the fullness of the skin tones, because you know, using 800D, which is tungsten light balanced, it's not always great for skin tones, whereas this really did enhance Cameron's skin and the colours just feel full and rich. However, it is still quite cinematic. It has those green shadows that kind of emulates cinematic profiles in movies. There's minimal halation, which I quite like because I'm not a massive fan of halation when it comes to film portraits. I prefer that to be on kind of like street or still life or something like that. You know, despite Cinestill kind of being known for the halations in their film stocks, I was kind of surprised that at least in 120, the halations in the highlights weren't kind of over accentuated, so it doesn't kind of feel like a novelty stock, which was my worry about it. I also noticed that there was a good dynamic range in this shot where Cam is in the shade and there is quite a little bit of contrast in lighting. Everything seems to be pretty well exposed. A note on exposure was that I did shoot this at box speed, so I did shoot it rating it at 400 ISO. So I also shot a roll of 800D with Cameron just to kind of see how the two film stocks compare and have more of a direct comparison than maybe some of my previous work on Cinestill. Cinestill 800D, as I said earlier, is a tungsten light balanced film stock. So that doesn't really make it optimal for daylight shooting, shooting portraits outdoors in natural light because of the way, like I said earlier, it renders skin tones. It is a lot colder than Cinestill 400D, and because of that, personally with my style of photography, I don't think it makes it a great film stock for daytime shooting when it comes to portraits. And of course at 800 ISO, you know, that is quite a high ISO to be working with when you have a lot of daylight. So it makes it more difficult to shoot wide open or to shoot at a shallower depth of field, which I do quite like doing when I'm using the 110mm lens. When we compare it to Portra 400, I found that Cinestill was warmer again than Portra 400 and the colours again felt a little bit fuller. This I was surprised by because Portra is really well renowned for emulating skin tones quite accurately. I still think the Portra looks great, it looks natural, it looks neutral, but on this shoot I do feel as though Cinestill 400D did render skin tones and colours a little bit more to my taste. If I had to, from these rolls alone, bearing in mind that lighting conditions do differ slightly between them all, create a scale of like warmth of colours, I would put Cinestill 800D on the cooler end, and then Portra 400 in the middle, quite neutral, and then Cinestill 400D on the warmer end. Something I particularly noted was the way that Cinestill 400D rendered the colour red. I really enjoyed how these reds popped in the colours. Styling was very red orientated and so was the location, and that was because I had seen other people's work before and seen how Cinestill 400D did render those reds, so I wanted to kind of see how that worked within my own work. And I'm really pleased that we did manage to do that, and that I think the photos look pretty good. I do prefer the reds over the yellows, but then again, the yellows and the greens, they were rendered really nicely as well. But overall, I really enjoyed working with this film stock. I'm excited to see how the 35mm format fares, but also how Cinestill 400D works in other scenarios. So coming to the channel soon, I'm going to be releasing a few different videos where you can see different instances, including in the studio, including working with different skin tones and different colours on location and outfits, and of course in different lighting scenarios. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is really just my first impressions of the film stock. I really enjoyed shooting with it, and I am hoping to shoot a lot more with it. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.